Hey everybody, it's Tony from Adafruit, and I wanted to do a cool little stream on building a fun project. So I found a really neat pair of sunglasses, and let me show these to you. So they're really pretty crazy. We'll just put them on here. Check these out. So almost feel like instant cyborg when you put these on, like you're a robot. So they're basically, totally mirrored on the fronts, kind of goggle style. Neat little things. And then you can see from inside they're pretty heavily tinted, but you can see out of them pretty well. It's not too bad. I just found them at a discount store, but I thought these are really cool glasses to add something to, like, to put some color, some lights, something that makes them a little more interesting, makes them stand out even more if they don't enough already. So I thought of a really cool project that actually Phil B has done before. It's called the Larson scanner shades. And let's see, I'll jump right into the desktop view so you can kind of get a better view of what these things look like. So let's jump to this view here. And you can see in the web browser here, I have a link to the Larson Scanner Shades project, and I'll put a link in the description below when this goes up on YouTube so you can check it out and see how to build these. And it's a pretty straightforward project. The basic idea is, you take a pair of shades like this, sunglasses, and then you can put inside of them a little NeoPixel strip, just maybe on the top, or you could put it anywhere as long as you can still see through these, facing out away from the sunglasses, so that way when you have them on, you'll see shining through the sunglasses the NeoPixel lights. So just like in the little animation here, you can see the lights shining through. Now it's called Larson Scanner. Phil B kind of explains that it's from the producer of Battlestar Galactica and Knight Rider. I guess Glenn Larson was his name, and so he used that effect in a lot of ways. If you remember Knight Rider, of course, Kit the car had the really cool little red animation, lights moving across, and same thing with the Cylons in Battlestar Galactica. So pretty cool that one person had a great idea, and look at that, it's like a treasure of science fiction now. So I want to build my own version, using these cool glasses that I got. I think these will be a great base for Larson Scanner Shades. And I figured, what the heck, we'll just kind of live stream it and go. I haven't built these yet. I have kind of just maybe played around a little bit with how I'm going to place these so that we get a little bit better idea of how to do the build. So again, check out this guide. It's got all the details on, if you want to build these yourself. It's pretty straightforward. You just need a strip of NeoPixels, something to power, like to drive them. I'm going to use a Gemma, but you could use a Trinket or really any small microcontroller. And then obviously something to power it all, like a battery, a LiPo battery, for example. I'm probably going to use a small one I have right here. This is a 500 milliamp one. I think we have even smaller ones, like 100 milliamps, that wouldn't last as long, but for just a fun little thing to take to like conventions and stuff like that, this would be a good thing to do. So okay, let's dive in. I'm just going to switch to the workbench shot because I'm going to scooch over and you won't really be able to see my head very well. So we'll dive into this view here, and I'm going to move the microphone over too, so you might hear a little bit of noise just so that it picks me up, because I have to slide over a little bit. So hopefully you're still picking me up. Looks like the levels are still okay here. So, and let me turn off some of these lights that we're not using here. So okay, cool. So we've got the full workbench shot here, at least as much as I can fit in the bench here. And so it's nothing too special here. I've got a bunch of the parts. So the big thing that you need, obviously, are the sunglasses. This is the pair here. These are pretty cool shades. They're Zoo York brand shades, but I just found them at a discount store. It doesn't really matter. Any sunglasses will work, but these ones are especially robot looking. So we'll put these aside because I'm not going to, well, actually, maybe I'll show you a little bit of stuff with them. And then, of course, the most important thing, NeoPixels, some strip of RGB pixels here. So I'm using the mini NeoPixels that we have. These are smaller than normal NeoPixels. Let me see, for example, no, that's a bad example. That's a small one also. Well, I don't have any full-size NeoPixels here, but these are about maybe a third the size, or maybe half the size, 2/3, something like that. They're a little bit smaller than normal NeoPixels, which is perfect for this project. So when Phil B made the project, we didn't have the small NeoPixels, and so it just means the smaller the pixel you can get, the less of your sunglasses are going to be obstructed, and so the less you'll have to squint or look around them. And I kind of tested this out a little bit. I mean, you can just put some pixels on here and try it out and see. And from what I saw, if I put these at the very top of the sunglasses, they're pretty much invisible to my vision. You know, they'll sit right above me, and it won't be a big issue for this. So I definitely check out the small neopixels. The ones I'm using here, these are the 60 pixels per meter density, which is kind of the medium density. I think the low density is like 30 pixels per meter. 60 is kind of the middle ground, and then you can go up to like 144 pixels per meter, which is real dense. Like, you know, it's pretty much pixels everywhere across the strip. You could use any of those. So in Phil B's build, he used the really dense pixels. I'm going for the 60 ones, mostly because they fit pretty well. I kind of noticed, so when you have this kind of density, you know, you've got these little vias or connections in the middle here that give you a good spot. So I can just put that, you know, one of those vias or connections right in the bridge of the glasses here, so that it's, you know, there's no light that gets obstructed, so it's just pixels all around. And I think these are dense enough, and I've actually kind of tested things out ahead of time, and I can fit about 8 pixels or 4 pixels on each of the eyepieces here, which I think will be perfect for doing the effect, you know, getting the animation across, because really it's just 1 or 2 pixels or so that are going to light up and scan across as we go with it. So I think this is the perfect size for this project then. So I'm going to use those. Like I said before, Gemma is the board that I'm going to use to power this. Super handy to use a board like Gemma, but you could use Trinket or other things. The nice thing with Gemma, it's got an on-off switch already on it, so if, you know, you can just flick the switch to kill power or to turn it on. It can plug in a battery, like a li-poly battery, very easy. You've got a little connector right there. They'll fit nice and snug. And then, of course, you know, it's perfect for, like, this isn't necessarily, I mean, it is a wearable project. There's no sewing involved, obviously. But it's great, easy to connect wires to these outer connections here. And it's got just the right number of pins. You know, we're going to need at least one to send the NeoPixel signal out. And then what I was thinking, this is a change from how Phil B did his project. So he didn't have any interaction in his project as far as, you know, like being able to control the lights, which makes sense. You know, when you're doing a small project, you probably don't have the capabilities to put in, like, you know, a whole control system. But I was thinking, let's add a little switch, just a little micro switch. So this is a momentary switch. You know, we sell these in this shop. These are the 6mm slim tactile switches. So normally these are for putting into a breadboard, and then you've got a real simple little switch that you can use. But I was thinking, I just actually, I unbent the pins. Normally the pins are bent down. I made them straight. And then I think I can just kind of fit these, you know, here are the glasses. I can probably glue one of these, you know, on the edge here so that it'll kind of sit out of the way. And then if I want, I can press this. And if I hook it up to a digital input on the Gemma board, which luckily I'll have at least one that I can use, then I can use that as a way to control this. So if I want to, like, maybe cycle through different colors or animation speeds or something like that, it's kind of cool to have that capability. I think it makes it, you know, a little more interactive, a little more fun to do this. So that was what I was thinking with that. The battery I mentioned, this is the little 500 milliamp LiPo battery. You know, you could use bigger ones if you wanted. This is 2000 milliamp hour, but this is, you know, a little too big. So the way I was thinking to place this, I'll show you, and that's maybe the first thing to start with, is to really do like a dry run as far as, you know, don't make anything permanent, don't glue anything, and just start playing with how you want to place these things. So, you know, I was thinking if I put it on this side of the glasses, the left side here, then it works well. I can put Gemma on the outside. You might wonder, could I put it on the inside of the glasses like this? And I was playing with it a little bit, and I kind of can. I mean, it depends on how big your head is. It could work, but one thing that Phil mentioned in his guide that's a smart idea, you do want to be careful about things that are kind of touching your body, because if you sweat, you know, you're going to get some perspiration on your skin, and then suddenly that can be conductive, and then, you know, before you know it, you're bridging ground and voltage and shorting out your battery through your skin, which might not be pleasant. So you do want to be careful about that. And so I was thinking mounting it on the outside is a little bit smarter, a little bit easier, and I think it'll look cooler too, because it shows more of the electronics here. You know, you can kind of see them. They'll be on the glasses here. And I did think a little bit about how I wanted to orient this thing. So, you know, ultimately I need the pixels, and actually I'll show you ahead of time. I just kind of built a quick little version of what I'm going to put inside of here, but I'll build this from scratch too on the stream here, so you see how I do it. So this is going to fit inside of the glasses like this, and you can see if I orient it this way, like it's just long enough so that I've got in the center here is where one of these vias are that kind of separate, like there's no pixel where you see these copper parts here, and then where the black is, there's a pixel that's facing out. And if I make this long enough, so I'm going to keep the silicone cover on these NeoPixels here. It's a nice little weather protective cover, because it'll make it easier. I could glue it right here on this edge, and then also glue it right here on this edge, and then maybe also glue it in the center, and then that'll hold it in pretty well. So like that way I don't have to glue the entire strip in, which I want to try to avoid. I want to make it so that I could like take this apart if I needed to and pull these out without destroying the glasses. So the less I have to do, the better. So the holder, or at least the silicone cover, that makes it a little nicer in that I can glue it in a few spots, and then it'll hold the strip of pixels inside of it. Then the other nice thing is that, because it's silicone, it's going to be waterproof. It's at least, even if it's pressed up against my forehead, it's not going to get like perspiration and moisture and stuff inside of it. So that'll work well. And then this strip is small enough, and I kind of test fit it a little bit, that you really can't feel this. Like you can sort of feel the silicone as it touches your forehead a little bit, but it's not too bad. I mean, every pair of glasses is going to be different, so you're going to have to mess around and see what works for you. But I think this setup works well. And then, like I said, I played around a little bit with how to orient this thing, and I figured out that if I cut the silicone cover to a length of 10 pixels, but then internally only use a length of 8 pixels, then it's perfect. It gives me a little bit of extra on the edges here that I can glue down to the frame of the glasses, but then it also leaves 4 pixels that are visible through each of the eyepieces on the glasses here. So I think that works well. This is going to be a good setup here. So that's how I'll mount the LEDs, or at least how I'll orient those. And then I'm just going to use hot glue to glue these things on, which it's kind of a pain to deal with hot glue sometimes, but I like it because it's permanent-ish. You can actually take hot glue off pretty easily if you take rubbing alcohol and Q-tips and just dip a Q-tip in rubbing alcohol and then rub that around the hardened hot glue, and then it just pops right off. And most surfaces, like, it won't leave anything at all. It's pretty easy to take it off that way. So I think that'll work. I mean, you could use, Phil B mentioned in his guide, E6000 is a nice glue, like permanent glue, but a little bit longer to dry. It's also a little kind of annoying to work with, I think. But like I said, I want to be able to take this apart so that, if I need to, I can repurpose these glasses, or maybe make them even better, add more stuff to them. So let's just kind of get started. I'll build the little strip of LEDs that I just showed. So like I mentioned, I kind of figured out that if I do 10 LEDs long with the silicone cover and then only use 8 LEDs inside of there, that gives me the perfect length. So I'll just cut this strip down to 10 LEDs to start with. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and I'm going to cut the pixels straight through the copper connections that connect all the pixels. So that way you can solder wires onto the end. Now, so I just cut off 10, and then I'm going to pull out the strip a little bit. So we'll kind of see if we can get it to come out the edge here, just a teeny bit. Get a grip on it. Come on. Almost there. Or I can grab a pair of pliers to pull it out of here. Well, they're not pliers, they're flush cutters, so I'll be very gentle with these. And there we go. So we pull that out. And I will cut off these 2 pixels, and I'm just going to double check, make sure that I get 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, perfect. So again, I'll cut right through the little connection here. So just straight through. Now, one thing to be careful about, especially with these NeoPixel strips, when you cut them, you get a really sharp edge right here. I have actually cut myself with this edge before. So I'm just going to trim the corners. I mean, it's really the corner that you have to watch yourself on because it is pretty sharp. So I'm just going to trim it a little bit on like a diagonal to round it off a teeny bit and make it a little less sharp. Now this is going to sit inside of this silicone cover here, so it's not going to be as much of a risk, to cut you, but it's just an easy thing. It takes a second, so I figure I'll cut these down. There we go. And then this one. So that looks good. Now, one super important thing. Remember, NeoPixel strips have a direction to them. So you can actually see little arrows pointed here that are pointing this way on this strip. And so that means my input has to come in here. I can put power and ground anywhere in this strip. but the actual input signal has to come from this end here. So just be aware of that. Everyone does it at least once probably, and then you learn your lesson that you soldered on the wrong side. So and if you do mess it up, it's not too hard. You can just unsolder it and flip it around and make it work. So don't worry. Easy mistake though to make. So okay, so we'll put these away. The pixels I don't need. And let's see. So like I was saying before, here the glasses are, and then the mounting wise, it works well. If I put this on the left side of the glasses here, if I put the Gemma on here, because I was looking at the orientation of the Gemma. So the way that I have to hook this up, basically I need a ground connection to go to the NeoPixels. I also need the V out. That's basically a direct connection from the battery or the USB power. So that'll give you either like 5 volts or 3.7 volts if you have a LiPo battery here. And that's what you want. You want your pixels to use just the battery voltage or the USB voltage. You don't want your pixels to use, so there's a 3 voltage output or 3.3 volt output. That one is basically the output of the regulator on this board that's powering the little ATmega chip on there. And you just want to be careful because that regulator can only source so much current. NeoPixels can be pretty power hungry, so if you're trying to pull hundreds of milliamps of current from that 3.3 volt source for that little regulator, you could overload it, and worst case your pixels, or maybe best case your pixels don't work. Worst case maybe you damage something. So be careful about that. So basically the easiest way to use NeoPixels with these little boards, use your output voltage, use the ground of course, you have to have that. And then the D1 pin is what I'm going to use to send the output signal, because that way all of these connections can just be on one side of the board. And then I was thinking with the glasses, if I orient it this way, it's perfect in that all of the pixel connections will be up at the top here, and then the power connection is right here. So when I plug in a battery, it can kind of, and that was something I was trying to think about, where do you put this battery? So if I plug the battery in here, you can see it kind of sits down at the end here, and you can just drape this around your ear. I don't have it yet, but I'm going to put some gaffer tape around this just to give it a little bit of protection. I mean, you do want to be really careful with LiPo batteries, especially if they're touching like flammable things or your body. These things can be a little dangerous. You don't want to get them wet. You don't want to, expose them to too hot of temperatures. Like, these are not the type of glasses you're going to want to take out and wear for hours and hours at a time. So for just a little quick usage, I'm going to use this LiPo. You could use, if you wanted, alkaline batteries. So this is a little battery pack. This has 3 AAA battery cells. The only annoying thing is, just look at the size, this versus this. So maybe if you had a hat or something that you could like put this up onto, that might work a little easier and be a little, safer. There's still always a risk. You've got batteries, there's chemicals in here, there's acids, there's stuff like that. So you have to be careful with that stuff. Okay, that's the plan then. I think, this side it works perfect if I orient it this way. Then for the switch, like I was saying, I think I can fit the switch like maybe down around here, and then when I was holding the glass, as I drop it there, when I was holding the glasses or putting them on earlier, this is in a perfect spot where it's right on your temple. Your ears are kind of around right here, so you can just reach up and touch this pretty easily. And I did want to be careful. It won't block the battery that much because this connector is kind of small and these wires can go over it, so that's not going to get in the way. And then I also did want to be careful, and I tested ahead of time. If I glue this down in this orientation, it looks like I can still get a micro USB cable to plug in here, so I can program the board, if I need to for that. Like other ways I could orient this, I could do it like this way, and then the power comes out here, and it's really easy to plug stuff in that way. But then all my NeoPixel connections are here, and they're going to loop around the front, which is a little weird. And also the battery cable is going to come out the top. So I think this is kind of the way to do it. But I did spend a lot of time just thinking about, what are the ways I can orient this to make it as easy as possible. And that saves a lot of trouble down the road. If you just start hacking away at it, then you kind of paint yourself into a corner sometimes with it. So, okay, so let's start with just soldering some wires to the NeoPixel strip here. And again, double, triple check. Here is the input side of this. Now for the wires, there are a couple options here that I have. So there's this is the 26 gauge silicone sheathed wire, stranded wire that we have in the shop. Super popular. This is, some of the best wiring that you can find anywhere, I think. It's silicone, so it's high temperature, very flexible and nice and comfortable to use. You can solder right up against it and it doesn't melt away like some of the other solders. Now 26 gauge is a little large from what I saw, so you can see on this pixel strip, it's probably a little hard on the camera to see, but there are 3 connections here that I need to connect to. And if I have all 3 of these wires, I mean, it looks like it could work, but it could be a little bit of a tight fit. So I also have, this is the 30 gauge, so it's a smaller gauge, smaller size wire. And this one looks like it's perfect. So this 30 gauge silicone wire, it's noticeably smaller than the other wire here, if you can tell. I might be able to see that way a little easier. So smaller wire. You do have to be careful. Smaller wire can, you can't send as much current through this type of wire. So you don't want to be like lighting, 10s and 20s and hundreds of pixels. Like, if you're pulling more than an amp through this 30 amp or 30 gauge wire, then you're really pushing it. Like, even an amp is probably way too much for this. You can look up online. I looked up, it looked like 0.8 amps is kind of the max for 30 gauge wire, but I think it also depends on the type of insulation and stuff like that. So in my case, I only have 8 pixels, and each NeoPixel can pull about 60 milliamps of current at full white brightness when all the pixels are on. So I think that's okay. That's like around 500 milliamps at most if I had it all lit up like bright white, which is kind of pushing it for this size wire, but I think that's still okay. But the nice thing is I'm not actually going to light them all up at once. Like, I'm only going to light 2 or 3, and mostly red or maybe primary colors. So in reality, this thing is probably only going to be pulling like 30 to 50 milliamps of current. So, I'm not too worried about the power. But you do want to think about it. You just can't grab any old wire, especially when you get into like, dozens and like hundreds of NeoPixels. Then power is your biggest issue, because when you have more pixels, you've got to send more power down the wires here, and at a certain point, like, your voltage might drop and you need to like inject more power into it. So lots of complexity. Look at the NeoPixel Uber guide, also another awesome Philby guide that just goes into great detail about lots of ways to use NeoPixels and how to power them and deal with those things. So, okay, let's get started. Let's stop talking and start building this thing. I'm going to just cut a few lengths of wire. I'm going to cut these a little bit long because I don't really know the exact length that I need until I kind of get things glued up, and then I'll cut them down to the size. So I'm just going to do like maybe maybe like 2 or 3 inches of wire here, and that should be plenty, because this is just going to go from a small area. Unfortunately, I only have red wire in this 30 gauge, so everything's going to be red. So ideally you have different colors for power and ground and signal, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. The wire is wire, so I'm just going to kind of use the other wires to gauge the size of these. So cut that down. I didn't cut that. There we go. So to that, I'm using the Hakko wire strippers here in the shop. These are awesome. I had some crappy wire strippers before. Well worth an upgrade to these, and they're not that expensive. It was not too bad to get those. Now the nice thing I noticed too with this 30 gauge wire, so I'm going to strip an end of this wire, and make sure to use the right size stripper, because you can enter a world of pain if you're trying to strip wire with the wrong size. And I'm just going to strip a very teeny amount. Like, you might not even be able to see that. Like, that's probably like 1 or 2 millimeters or so, because that's really all I need. I'm just going to twist it because it's stranded, so I don't want it to fray out. So just twisting it all together there. And so you probably can't see, but on these copper parts of the pixel, there are little holes. I think they're actually vias, but you can actually thread this 30 gauge wire right through these holes. It fits perfectly through that. So that way, I figure I'll have it come through the hole and then kind of lay flush against the big copper pad and solder down onto that. So that'll make it really easy to connect these wires up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to strip off, millimeter or 2 from the end of this insulation. And I want to keep it as tight as possible, like keep as much insulation as possible, because the more insulation is there, the less chance that there's something that could come in and short out you know, the connections here. And then what I'm also going to do, well, the one nice thing, you know, because my sheath is longer than the strip of pixels, these connections are actually going to sit inside of the silicone sheath, you know, kind of like right where my finger's at here. So that'll give them some protection. And then I was thinking I'm just going to put a big blob of hot glue on the end where the wires are to be both strain relief and to kind of seal the edge up there. So that'll make it a little more secure there. So, okay, let me just strip this last one right here. So we'll do, that's maybe too much. Yeah, there we go, that's probably perfect. Okay, so let's get soldering, and again, double, triple check the input side of these pixels. So let me pull these things out, see if I can tap it out. Come on, get out. There we go, just about out. Okay, so, and one other nice thing that's worth investing in, I don't think we have it in the shop right now, but I have this little rubber mat. This is, I think, butyl rubber. I just found it on Amazon, and it's one of these conductive mats where, you know, you can, there's a little pin, little snap in right here, which you can't see. You can put a ground strap on there, and then you can actually ground the mat itself, and so it can be an anti-static mat. But it's also pretty heat proof. So like soldering iron, you know, I can just jam it right on there, and it's not doing much to it. It's not marring it up. So I like that, because that way, you know, I've got a little strip of pixels here. I can just solder right on this, and I'm not going to worry about like burning up the work surface here. So real handy thing. Makes it a lot easier, because otherwise, you know, if you've got like helping hands holding things in the air and you're trying to solder stuff and you're trying to put force on it, it's like, it's just a world of pain for that. So a little tip there. Now I'll tin the wires. I'm going to just add a little bit of solder to each of the wires here. I'm not going to tin these pads yet, because I don't want to cover up those holes that I have to put the wire through. So that was kind of my thinking here. So I'm just going to pull some solder here, and then just put a little bit of solder on the wires here. And they're stranded wires, so they'll kind of suck up some of the solder on here. Let's see. Oh, actually, I should probably clean the tip a little bit, at least get a little bit of solder on there. There we go. So, okay, now this should flow pretty easily. So we'll just put some solder on there. And there we go. Yeah, I can see there's a big blob of solder. And you do want to be careful that it's not too big, that you won't be able to fit through the holes. But even if it is too big, you can just pull some of it off. Probably just with the iron, or a solder wick for sure could do it. So, okay, let's tin this wire a little bit too. So, oops, see if we can get some of the solder on there. Yeah, it looks like I got it on there. There we go, that got some on. Okay, so there's that one. And then I'll tin this one also. So, oh, I see. So this is a stranded wire, and I noticed some of the strands were just kind of sticking out at crazy angles. So I just went in and just twisted it with my fingers, so it's all kind of one straight wire now. Makes it a little bit easier to use it, because you do need to be careful. Like those little wires, you know, they might stick out, and then before you know it, they're shorting out against something. So, you know, try and keep it all neat and clean. So, okay, so that's easy. Now let's just see, let's make sure I can fit all of these. And again, double check input arrow that way. You know, I'm not going to screw this up. So, okay, I'll feed this one through the hole there. All right, yeah, that fits perfectly. So I'll do these just kind of like one at a time. So I'm going to lay it flat a little bit. And it's a little annoying. I need to put some weight on the pixels here. So I'm just going to grab multimeter here just to hold it down, because it has a tendency to want to like flip over on the edge here, so this makes it a little easier. And let's see, I might be able to zoom in. Let's try that and see if we can. Oh yeah, look at that. All right, so we'll reorient this a little bit here, and let's see, my light is a little bit glaring, so let's see if I can turn that down a little bit. We probably need more light. Let's see if I can change the angle of this light. That might help a little bit. Well, it looks like that's as good as it gets with it. So let's see how close we can go. There's a limit to how close it can focus, so that's pretty much in focus. So okay, so you can see here the top wire, and it's hard to tell, but the little edge of the wire that I stripped off is poking through it. So it's just enough, I think, for the solder to come in and grab it. So I will do that now. We'll just come in, and I'm going to hold down with my finger here, and then just give some heat to this, and then a little bit of solder also. And okay, I can see the solder just flowed, and I pull it off, and it looks like it's okay. Let's look at the connection and see how that looks here. Oh, let's see. All right, so you can see that's not too bad of a connection, and you can see on the other side here that some of the solder flowed through, so it's connected on both the back and the front. And I'm going to give it a nice little tug. So yeah, that's pretty solid. You know, that's not going to go anywhere. So okay, that's perfect. That's exactly how you want to solder these things. You know, you don't want to have a big glob of solder sticking off of here. You know, you don't want to have like a little part of the wire barely connected, and when you yank it, it just snaps right off. You know, you want to get enough wire to really let the solder grab it and hold it there. So okay, I'm going to put the next wire in, and sorry, you probably can't see this super well. Maybe you can. Wow, okay, that actually is a good shot. And then let's see if I can fit it through the little hole there. Oops. And this one might be a little too large. Let's see if I can make this work. Let's see. Ah, there we go. Perfect. Right through, like threading the needle. Okay, and again, I'm going to try and do the same thing here, where I'm going to pull this out a little bit. And I do want to be careful. I don't want, you know, both of these connections to short out. Luckily, the way these pixels are oriented, power is on one side and ground is on the other, so it's pretty hard to short out power and ground. I mean, well, it's maybe not hard, but it's not as hard or not as easy to short them out versus, like, you know, maybe shorting out your power to your signal pin or something like that. So, you know, you want to be sure to not short out your power and ground, because these are going to be connected straight to your battery, and you know, bad things could happen in that case. So don't let that happen. Okay, so I think this one looks good. I'm going to pull it out a teeny bit to, there we go, to give it a little more on the back to grab onto. So okay, I think that'll work. All right, so let me hold that down, and then we'll grab the iron. All right, and then let it focus there. There we go. And let's just solder this guy down. So I'm going to hold it down with my finger and then get the iron right onto the copper pad. Let the solder flow and then pull it off. That looks okay. Maybe a little more solder than I needed on that one. But let's look at the connection here real quick. So let's see how that looks in the camera. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, you can see that was a little bit bigger of a blob of solder, but it didn't really come through on the back very much here. So you can see like a little bit back there. It's not too bad. I mean, the important thing is that it holds. This is actually the signal wire, so it's not going to be sending much power here. So okay, I think that's okay. And then let's do the last one here, and then let's see. Okay. This one has a bigger blob of solder on the end here, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to fit it through the hole in here. But let's see. Yeah, I can't fit it. Okay, so let's just touch it with the iron a little bit to see if we can get some of the solder off of it, or at least reshape it a little bit. Okay, I think that might work. We'll see if that fits here. So let's... And hey, worst case, this wire, got plenty of it, so I can just cut a new strand or just cut off that little edge if it's too much. It's not worth fussing over it more if it's, you know, not going to be an easy thing to add. Almost in there. All right, let's just cut this off. Let's start fresh with this. So let's snip off this little edge here, and then let's strip a new little edge. Alright, so let's do that. I'm going to twist these with my finger so you can kind of see. Hopefully that's nice and small. If it focuses, almost focused, that looks like it's trying to focus down. Okay, so let's do that. Now let's tin this wire again and try and be careful to not get a big blob of solder on the end of it. So, alright, so I'll just hold out some of the solder here. Let's see if we can get that into view. There we go. And I know there might be easier ways to tin wires, but I let the solder stay here and just hold the wire to it and get the iron on it. There we go. So it's flowing, and then just kind of let it suck up some of the solder. Oh, and I do see a little pin kind of flew off the side. You might not be able to see it. So there's a little whisker here that kind of came off or came out of it. I think that's okay, but I might have just gotten more solder on it than I needed. So, all right, let's see if we can clean this one up a little bit. And I think this one should be able to fit through. Actually, no, this one might not. This one's pretty big. So, all right, let's see if this one goes through. Nope, a little too big on that side. So, let's see. Well, let's do it one more time. Hey, we've got plenty of wire here, so third time's the charm. All right, cut that off. Strip this little edge here. Give it a little more. And you know what? Let's just, I'm not even going to tin it. I'm just going to go, straight go for it. So let's just put it in and solder it down. There's a lot of copper here. It's easy for it to get a good connection. The other thing I could do is I could enlarge the hole a little bit. I think Phil B mentioned this in his guide. But these strips are so thin and small that I don't really have a tool to get in there and enlarge that that hole very easily. So I'm just going to live with what I've got here. So okay, that fits through. That's not too bad. Oops, just came out again. There we go. All right. So now let's see if I can kind of pull this out a little bit. I think that'll work. Flip it over. And then I do want to be careful not to let it touch one of the other connections. So yeah, I just kind of scooched it over to the side a little bit. Okay, that's perfect. If I hold that down, then we should be okay here. So let me grab soldering iron. Now watch, I probably just, I don't have enough wire here. Well, we'll see what happens, but I think I have enough wire for this. So, all right, so I'll hold this down with my finger and hopefully not be in the way too much of the video here. And then just get the iron in there and kind of touch both the wire and that. And then watch for it to flow. Yep, that flowed. And that should be okay. All right, so let's look at these connections here and see what we've got. So, not the prettiest in the world. I mean, there's maybe more solder than I need, but let's give it a nice tug. And yeah, that thing's not going anywhere. That seems to be on there pretty well. And again, like visually check, there's nothing is bridged right here. You can see the connections are nice. This one I like because the insulation goes right up to it, so it's a little more protected. And then on this side, yeah, nothing bridged, so everything looks good there. So I think that's okay. As long as I get a little bit of strain relief on here, because I don't want like things pulling on this, and luckily there won't be a lot of forces applied to this. But that looks fine. So I think we're good with that. So let's move on now, and let's see. I'll zoom back out. So let's see. We'll go back to the wide shot here and pull everything in. Okay, so there's that. Let's see. So here are the glasses, and then let's move these aside here. And this is kind of the orientation that my wiring or the pixels will be inside of here. So remember I left a little on the edges that I'm going to glue into, and it gives some protection to the connections over here, so that'll work well. And then this is the side I want these on. And if I put this right in the middle here, then that looks like it's going to be perfect. So I can glue on this side and on this side over here too. So that looks good. Now before I glue this thing in, I'm gonna test it real quick. I just want to make sure, I want to see these pixels light up because I don't want to have to yank this thing out if I don't have to. So let's do that next. And I also just want to check that I've got enough wire from this kind of short one that I had to cut a few times. That looks okay because the wire just needs to reach to this edge right here. So that's perfect. I think there's enough length in there. So okay, let's strip some of these wires off and test this out. So I've got some alligator clip wires here that I'm just going to clip onto here, and then I can clip onto Gemma and make sure that they work, because the worst thing in the world is to get everything all hooked up and then suddenly your project doesn't work and you've got to tear it all apart again. So try to avoid some of that if possible by just breaking things apart, do them in steps like this. So yank off some of that insulation. And then this one, yank off that there. Okay, that's cool. Now let's just pull out some of these wires and use these. All right, so let's do the middle wire. And again, make sure you get the right wires. So there's a plus up here, there's a minus on the bottom, so that's ground. plus is your positive voltage, and then in the middle it says D, so that's your digital input, I think. Yeah, D, or maybe direction, or your data, sorry, your data line. So that's, your middle line is where you want your signal to go. So I'll use the yellow clip for that. So clip that in. And then like I said before, the way I'm going to orient this, the D1 pin is the one that's going to be the signal line for this. And then let's grab the ground and let's connect that up. And you do want to be careful with these banana clips that you don't let them touch each other and short out. So okay, so ground is the negative, which is this wire right here. So let's grab that. And I'm going to just move it out of the way. Maybe we'll put on this side there. And then power is the last one. And like I said before with that, I'm going to put that on the V out line. So that's kind of your voltage out, before the regulator, effectively. So, okay, I'm going to plug in my Gemma, and I actually have it preloaded with the Larson scanner sketch. So in theory, we should see it start lighting. So it's plugged in. It goes into the bootloader first, so we'll give it a second here, do its thing. And then let's see, hopefully, after it gets through the bootloader, still, there we go. Hey, look at that. So we've got our strip of pixels. So cool, they work. And this is just doing the stock animation from Phil B's sketch for this project. So we'll come back if there's time. Like I said, I'm going to add that button. I don't know if I'll have time in this video stream. I want to try to keep it to like an hour or so. Maybe I'll do another stream to add some of the code to do that. But for now, I think the stock code is good. So cool, it's starting to come together. So let's see, I'm just going to disconnect this real quick. So, okay, that looks good. So I feel confident enough to solder or to glue this into the glasses, to glue the lights in. So let's do that next. Well, actually, since I'm still soldering stuff, let's do one more soldering thing. So let's do the little button, like I said before, the push button here. So I pulled out these little legs flat so that it could sit flat, and then that'll give a good surface to solder against for this. So what I'll do is I'll tin the wire, or tin the little legs here, just add some solder to them, so it'll be easier to connect a wire to these. So okay, so we'll see if I can just kind of hold this guy down, and I'm just going to touch the iron to this and just let it pull down some of the solder and make sure it attaches to the leg. So yeah, that looks like there's some solder there. And again, I love this mat. I can just solder right against it, and there's no burns or anything. It gets a little discolored, but hey, that's just some the beauty scars of a well-used tool. So okay, same thing here. Just push iron against it and let some solder flow onto it. Okay, so that seems good. So tin that, and then let's see, clean that off. I'm going to use the same wire, so I'll just cut out. I'm going to cut a longer length for this because I don't exactly know where I'm going to place these this switch yet, so I just want to give myself a little bit of leeway here. So maybe like 4 inches or so of wire here, which should be plenty. So I'll use the other wire as a gauge. There we go. And I'm just going to get rid of these banana clips, cables. All right, so pull those aside. And then let's strip off a little bit from here. Make sure I've got the 30 gauge. Yep, that's 30 at the top. All right, so pull a little bit off of there. And then pull a little bit off. Oh wait, no, I just need one end of each of these right now. So okay, so I'll do that. And then a little bit off of that. Okay. Again, I'll twist these edges a little bit, or the ends, so that all the strands kind of stay together. And I'll tin these again. And luckily this time it doesn't matter if I get a bigger blob of solder on these, because I'm not trying to put them through the little via holes there. So okay, so we will put this against the solder and heat it up and just let it grab some of that and suck it in. So come on, there we go. Yeah, there we go. I can see got some of it that time. So that looks okay. And then same thing for this wire. We'll tin the edge So yeah, that got some solder in. Okay, perfect. So that's easy. So we're almost done with the soldering. So now for this guy, let's see, I'm just going to solder the wires. I'm just going to lay them flat and just press the iron against there. It can be a little annoying though, like, because when I release the iron, the solder is still going to be a little bit kind of molten, I guess. So it could move a little bit. And you do want to be careful, when it's in that state. If you move the solder connection, it might turn into a bad connection. You could use helping hands to hold these things, but I'm just going to see if I can just make this work. If I press it down, I'm going to see if I can just like hold, my finger against the wire so it doesn't move that much, and see if I can just line these guys up. And then I probably don't need to add any solder to this. Both of these are tinned, so they should just flow together. And so we'll see what we can do here. All right, so I felt those flow, and I let it sit for a second, and I don't move it so that it firms up the connection. Okay, so they're connected. It's not the prettiest connection in the world. I'll zoom in to this. Yeah, here we go. So you can see here, here's the connection. Not the prettiest thing in the world. That's not going to win any awards. But I think that's fine. It's nice and flat on this side here, so it can lay against the glasses. And again, this is just a switch, so there's going to be a pull-up resistor that's going to have a very small amount of power going through it. And then when you press the switch, it'll connect it to ground. So I think this is fine. It's really just as long as we get the signal across here. So not super pretty, but hey, it works. We'll make it work. Okay, so same thing I'll do on this side here. And I'll put this wire down here, and I'll see if I can hold it again, maybe get it on camera as I let this flow. And so you can kind of see how there's some solder on the side of that. Well, this is annoying, so it's kind of wants to tip itself over, so I'm going to see if I can hold it with a little clip or something. There we go, that seems like that'll hold it. And then here, I'll hold this with my finger and see if I can get it to touch the top of the button. Okay, so that seems like it's lined up pretty well. So I'm just going to hit these with the soldering iron and let the solder flow, and I can see it kind of flow, and then I pulled it away and held it there. So it looks like that's connected, but let's inspect it. So yeah, that's not too bad. Let's see, let the thing focus. There we go. It's kind of annoying. It has that little thing sticking out there. I could clip that off if I wanted, but it looks like it's going to hold. Tug on it a few times. That seems like it's fine. So, okay, so, and just double check. I'll tug on both those. Yep, that seems good. So, okay, cool. So that's it. So I think as far as the soldering goes, we're good with that. So let's zoom back out to the wide shot here. And okay, now the part that I actually hate the most is hot glue. It's such a pain as far as working with it. So I've got my hot glue gun over here, and I've put it on a little piece of cardboard because they're just pain in the butt to work with. They leak out glue as they sit there. So if you can minimize the mess, then go for that. And I'm just gonna kind of clean things up a little bit, get rid of some of the wires and things I'm not using, to make sure I'm not bumping into stuff here. Don't need those anymore. The battery, let's keep that away from the heat. So, okay, and then the most important thing, I need the glasses. So, let's see. Basically what I need to do, I guess there are a couple ways I could approach this. I could just glue the silicone in, pull out the strip of pixels, glue the cover down, and then feed the pixels into that. That might be nice if I worry that like all the wires and things are going to get in the way. So yeah, let's do that. That might be easier for this. So I'm just going to basically lay this in, and I'm just going to glue it to where it touches the frame in a couple spots here. So on this edge here, I can get the glue gun into here and glue this. So let's do that. And I probably should have tested this glue, ahead of time with the plastic here. Like, it's hot glue. It could melt some plastic. I think it'll be okay though. So we're just gonna go for it. All right, so I'll put a little bit of glue down there. and then I'm going to lay it down against that. It looks like the glue is starting to go towards the lens, and I want to try to keep the glue off of the lens. So, okay, that looks like that holds. And then, of course, you get all these nice little strings of hot glue everywhere, but that's just the pain of dealing with it. So that looks okay, and then I'm going to glue it in the center also. There's a little part of a frame there that I can get to, so let's do that next, and then lay it against that. So I'm just going to kind of move this out of the way. Uh-oh, I just saw the cat enter the room, so this could be challenging. We'll see what she does. All right, so I'll put some glue here. Let's see if I can keep it off of the lenses. Yeah, a little bit there. That's probably good enough for now, at least just to kind of tack it down. So, okay, that looks good. And uh-oh, here comes the cat. I think she's preparing to jump up, so I'm just gonna, oh. We've got a little partner here in crime. I think she wants to get towards the window that's over here, so I'll move some stuff out of the way. And of course, you got to be careful with a hot glue gun here. Her tail probably wants to whip out and get some hot glue against it. All right, what are you doing here, cat? What are you doing? You just gonna sit here while we stream and just show your cat tail on the stream? All right, move her out of the way. There we go. All right, so that looks okay. You know, it's holding it. It's in there. I think. Oh, well, maybe it's not. Oh, look at that. It just comes right off. So that's cute. I didn't anticipate that. Let me see. Is the glue? Maybe the glue just doesn't hold well to the silicone cover. So okay, well maybe that is a change of plans here for this. Let me just pull some of this off. And like I said, you can use alcohol to remove this. So that could be a bummer if that doesn't work. I'm going to grab my other sheath here. I just want to see if I can glue this thing onto something. Or maybe the glue just doesn't hold well to silicone. So hey, I probably should have tested this ahead of time. So I'm going to push down and give that some force and let it kind of dry and see if that does it. And the cat is like right here next to my hands. So all right, so let's see. Does that hold? Nope, that doesn't hold well. Okay, interesting. So I don't think this silicone sheath is going to work. So lesson learned, it doesn't look like hot glue sticks well to that. So maybe there are different types of hot glue we could use. So, okay, so now we really need to fly by the seat of our pants here and kind of improvise and see what we can do for this. So I wanted to avoid it, but I could still just directly hot glue to the pixels, to the strip of the pixels here. So if I put some glue there, now at this point I might need to put some glue onto the lenses, which I wanted to avoid, but you know, looks like on this edge I can probably get a little tip of glue right there, and that's not too bad, so that could work. And then on this edge here, yeah, I could probably get some glue there. That might work. You know, I could go to a larger strip, but you know, I'm already halfway through and into this, so I say let's just keep going. I mean, there may be some other things I could do, so you know, you don't have to use glue to attach this. I could maybe look at some other ways to, you know, maybe some different types of glue to attach the silicone onto here. I'm wondering maybe E6000 might work a little better than hot glue for this. So, but let's just go for this. And you know what? Just kind of looking at this right now, you know, the glue in the middle frame part there is still a little. It's kind of grabbing it right now. It holds it not too badly. You know, this is. It won't be the most secure thing, but if I just glue in this center spot, that might be good enough for now to do this. You know, I might come back and play with this later because at the very least I probably want to put some tape across here, like Kapton tape, to keep it from being conductive. And you know, maybe I guess in the tape would help too, and then I could just tape it down onto the glasses. So I don't have that tape right now, but maybe later I'll come back. So all right, let's just hot glue it in the center. That's going to be good enough to get us going and to test this out. So let's do that. I'll see if I can pull off some of the glue. Yeah, it looks like it hasn't really fully set in. So I can just kind of scrape it off with my fingernail there. So, okay. And then let me just see if I can scrape off some from this side that I kind of got messed up. Now, all right, I'll come back later and we'll hit that with alcohol, rubbing alcohol to pull that off. So, okay, so let's just put a dab right in the center of this frame here. Yeah, give it a good amount, but not too much. There we go. That should be enough. And then make sure I get the exact dead center pixel. Yeah, that seems good. And then I'm just going to press down on it to just give it some force so that hopefully the glue can set. And then of course you get these annoying little strands, so pull those apart. So okay, so that's probably good enough. Like you can see the edge here kind of comes out, and you know, I guess I could probably put a little teeny drop of hot glue on the edge there. So all right, let's do that. We'll see if we can just tack that in place. So okay, teeny bit of glue there. Almost, come on. That's the other thing I hate about hot glue is, you know, it never comes out in a well-controlled amount. So, you know, you get like nothing or giant blob. So, alright, so I'll just hold that down and let the glue dry for a second there. So, alright, waiting for glue to dry. There we go. Almost there. Okay, yeah, it looks like that's okay. It's still a little tacky. I'm going to kind of move it over a little, hopefully to kind of try and cover it. So, okay, that's not bad. It's good enough. And then this side here, you know, I'm not going to mess with this yet. Well, I don't know. I guess I could just put a big blob right here and tack it down, and then also that gives some strain relief. So, yeah, what the heck? Let's do that. So, all right, let's put this down. And we're just going to put a nice big blob there. Not the prettiest thing, but that'll probably hold it and at least give a little bit of protection to the edge there too. So, oops, I don't want to move that too much. Just let it kind of set up and dry for this. So, okay, cool. So we're almost there. So we'll just kind of let that thing sit for a second. Okay, so the next thing then, I need to get the gemma onto the side here. So let's move the glasses. Like, let's see, what's the easiest way to do this? Probably like that. All right. So for that, I was thinking, oh, and that glue is still a little tacky. Let me make sure there we go. Okay. So let's see. Now, and remember, the way I was thinking of orienting this was this way, effectively. I think this will be pretty easy. I'm just going to put a big blob of hot glue there and just stick her right on top of that. So let's do that. Let's just go for it. You know, nothing's permanent, luckily, with this glue. So, all right, yep, nice, ugly, giant blob. Not too much, though, because it's going to kind of, you know, seep out as I press down on this. And then I'll just stick it right on the top there. So, okay, that seems okay. It's relatively straight. You know, the way it faces doesn't matter that much. So, okay, so that seems okay. And that's good. That's the proper way to use hot glue. It seems like, you know, get a nice amount. But I think this is going to hold in the center here. I mean, it's not falling. It's not getting a lot of force. And you can see it's nice and flush, like, you know, real slim. You know, it's not going to touch very much. But I do want to put some protection here because I don't want to short out the power and ground on there. So I'm going to come back later after this video and do that. Okay, cool. So now my wires, and I need to be really careful here and make sure that, you know, I get the right connections to the right spot. Oh, and of course now I can't see which is the top wire power or is the bottom wire ground because I've glued it in there. But luckily I've got another strip here so I can look at this strip and see the way this is oriented. The ground wire is at the top, it looks like, and then the power wire is at the bottom. So, you know, I probably should have labeled these wires before I started, but hey, we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants here. So, okay, so I'm just going to see, you know, where I need to go, like what length of wire I need for these. So the top one, it needs to connect to the ground connection right here. So I'll see if I can kind of feed it through this connection. Oh, I should turn on, I turned off the soldering iron, but I forgot I'm going to need it again to solder to the gemma. So we'll just put it through. I'm going to see if I can kind of get the wire through the bottom there. Oh, no, that's not going to work. So, all right, let's just kind of hold it here and just kind of see, you know, I'm going to try and keep the wiring a little neat and clean. So, okay, I need my wire stripper, and maybe I'll just use a flush cutter also here. So I'm just going to cut this length of wire, and then let's strip off a little bit. Maybe we'll do all the wire cutting at once. So okay, so the middle one is this one. That's my signal. That needs to go to the D1 connection here at the top. So let's just kind of see, you know, what's kind of a nice clean short amount, but not too short, because, you know, I want to give myself a little bit of wiggle room in case I mess up and, you know, need to come back and trim it again. So okay, that looks like that's going to fit pretty well. And then the bottom one is my V out power, so that goes to the very last one. And you know, I think I don't even need to trim this one. I think it's going to just barely reach across there. And you know, remember, this is going to move also, so I should probably put these into their kind of lowered position here and double check that these are going to fit. So that fits. Let's see, the middle one, that'll fit, it looks like, and then the ground, that'll fit too. So okay, so that seems good. Okay, so that seems fine, and then let's strip off the edges of these guys a little bit, and then we'll come in and solder these on. So strip that off, and then strip this off. And for this, what I'm thinking, I think let's we'll tin the wires, and then we'll tin the pads, and then that'll make it really easy to connect these. That, you know, I won't have to come in holding a bunch of solder. So let's do that next. Let me just clean the iron a little bit, or at least get some flux and stuff on there. There we go. All right, so that's nice. And then let's just come in and put some solder on these wires. There we go, that has solder. And this guy, yep, that has solder now. And this one is a little frayed out, so I'm going to twist it. And that seems okay now. And then we'll solder that. Just going to hold the edge there. Oh boy, that's got a giant blob of solder, which isn't bad. You know, I do want a lot of solder on there, so I'm just going to hold the iron there. That seems a little nicer, a little cleaner. Okay, that seems good. Now I will tin the pads on the Gemma, and you know, I do want to be careful. I don't want to like scratch up the glasses. Like they're plastic and the iron's pretty hot, so you know, I just want to try and touch the pads here. So this is kind of where you have to figure out how to make two hands do the work of three hands here. So we'll see if I can hold the solder and the glasses. And I'm just going to put a bunch of solder on the pads if I can. It's always a little annoying. Like I just got a big blob. You know, I want to heat the pad and then get the solder to stick to it. And then of course these glasses move around as I hold them, so it's not easy to get a good firm kind of connection between the iron and the pad. So I'll see if I can just hold things steady and then get the iron on and let it heat up the pad, and then put the solder like right next to it. There we go. That's starting to flow a little bit. So that seems good. So I've got a bunch of solder there. And then same thing here. So just let it heat up the pad a bit, and then get the solder right next to it. Give it a nice blob. Let it flow a little bit, and then that seems good. And same thing for V out. Oops. Move that around. Okay. So I'll put the iron right there, and then let the solder flow. Yep, that seems good. So good enough to connect these wires. So okay, and again, let's double, triple check the connections. So I'm actually gonna triple check with this, you know, because I want to make sure that I get the right orientation. So yeah, ground is at the top, signal, and then power at the bottom. So again here, ground is at the top right there, so let's do that first. And this might be a little challenging. We'll see how we can make this work. Yeah, I think I can kind of hold it there and get the wire to touch. And you know, basically I'm going to heat the solder, let it flow, stick the wire in, and then pull the iron away and let it solidify, and that should be good enough.
So just letting that, heating up this solder here. There we go, that's flowing. Put the wire in. It seems like it's all flowing and happy. I'm going to press it with the wire, with the iron also. And then just let it really fully harden there. So that looks like it was a good connection there. Just going to look at it also. So yeah, that seems okay. Let's see. I'll see if I can zoom in for the next one. So we'll go telephoto here. Okay, so let's see if you can see the next one. So you can see that's, again, it's not super pretty, but it looks like it's going to hold. It's not too bad, so that'll work. Okay, so let's do the same thing. Now the signal is the next one, the D1 connection. So that is this little shorter wire here. So I'll feed that guy around the back here. And then we'll see if we can do the same thing here. So I'll see if I can get this on the camera a little better. You have to do some finger gymnastics to really to hold the glasses and the wires. So we'll see what we can do here. Okay, so that's almost there. Okay, yeah, it looks like that'll work well. I can kind of move that with my finger and hold the glasses. So let's heat up this solder pad here. Flow that solder. All right, so that's flowing. Put that in. I'm going to press the wire down also with the iron just to make sure it really gets in there. And then just hold it steady. Not a good connection, obviously. So let's flow that again. All right, so just make sure there's a lot of solder there. Hold this guy down. And let that just really cool. Not going to touch it, not going to move it. So let it fully solidify. And then let's see. I'm going to tug on it and we'll see if it's a good connection. So, oh yeah, that feels pretty firm. That's not going anywhere. So yeah, not super pretty, but hey, it works. And then these wires, you know, they'll just kind of sit out of the way there, which will work well. Okay, last one, power. That goes all the way to the back here. So let's see if we can do this. I think I'm going to have to hold it this way again. So I'm kind of holding the glasses down with my pinky finger here, and then using these fingers here to move it, so that works well. Okay, so let's try this. And wait, I've got the iron wrapped around me. All right, so we'll hold this down, and I should be able to, yeah, just get in like that, and then flow the solder on this joint, on this pad. So, all right, so that's nice and flowed, and just put the wire in there and hold it down. Oh, that's getting a little hot. Of course, my fingers are kind of shaking. So you can kind of see as that joint solidified, you know, my finger was shaking it. I don't like that. I don't really trust that kind of a connection. You know, you can get a cold joint that way. So I'm going to come in and redo that one. I mean, it's probably good enough, but just to be extra sure, I'm gonna reflow that one. Trying to think if there's an easier way to hold these glasses to do that, but I don't really see one. You know, maybe it'll be easier now. Maybe if I go like this way, if I hold them this way, because I really want to make sure that this wire doesn't move. So I'm going to try and get my fingers on here and hold it. I think if I try this angle, this might work a little better. So I'm just going to reflow these while I'm also pushing the wire a little bit so that I'm pushing it like into the pad so it doesn't come flying out. Which it might want to do, yeah, so it just kind of started to come out. All right, so I just flowed it, and that seemed a little better. So, okay, we'll let that set there. All right, I think that's okay. I think that's going to work. You know, again, not super pretty, but it works. You know, it would be easier if I probably put the wire through the hole in the pad and then, like, you know, wrapped it around for this, but it's hard. Like, since I glued this down, it's hard to do that. And, you know, I probably should have soldered this before I glued it, but you know, we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants on this. So, okay, I think that's going to work. Like, you know, it's not too bad. Let's zoom back out and see, oops, how this thing looks. So, you know, you can see here, like it's inside the center there. You know, from this side, it's not too bad. Like, you've got these little wires here, but that adds to the aesthetic, I think, of these glasses. So you can see it like that way, and you don't really see anything. You can kind of see, actually, the little strip. It's, you know, it's not super visible, but it is there. Okay, now the big test. Let's plug in a battery, and I don't even know if this battery's charged, so we'll find out pretty quickly if this thing works or not. So we'll plug this in. Okay, yeah, so that lit up. It's going to go into the bootloader first, and then, hey, look at that. Whoa, that looks like it's working. That's pretty cool. I think it might be working. So here's kind of the view from the back, and you can kind of see, there's a little bit of reflection, but it's not too bad. Okay, so let me jump back to, and I haven't done the switch yet. You know what? This stream is running a little bit long, so I don't think I'm going to do the switch on this stream. I don't even know where I put the switch anyway, so we'd have a little party trying to find it. But maybe, I might come in later and add that switch to the side here, and then connect it down to the bottom here. But hey, let's call this a success. So all right, let me switch back to the camera views here. I'm going to move the microphone, so sorry if that was a little bit of volume change. And let's go back to the main headshot here. So okay, so here is the final finished project so far, or at least semi-finished project. So I got to figure out a good way to hold this battery. So all right, put the shades on, and we'll kind of clip the battery around. So all right, how is that? Is that cool or what? This is the Larson scanner shades. Now this is cool. I've got one extra thing to add this, and you kind of see like, okay, hey, this is like the cyberpunk earring, lithium ion battery earring there. So that's what that could be. Although I'm going to wrap it in gaffer tape because I don't want a battery like directly stuck to my head here. But if you wear a hat, you could probably like put it up there. I did look and see, like, I can sort of, let me see how I can do this. I might be able to slide the battery down towards the front here. Like it does fit like that. But again, I don't like the battery touching, my body as much like that. So that's an option. I mean, another option is I could go down to this temple and maybe put the battery on the outside here. Then I need like a longer cable to come around and connect that. So, there's no perfect way, unfortunately. Like, we need some battery breakthroughs. I need a battery that's like, the size of a grain of rice that could power this thing for a long time. So for now, you get the cyberpunk earring with this. So, okay, now there's one extra thing. So you got a cool pair of shades. I've got something that goes with this, so hang on a second. I'll be right back. All right, so what pair of shades is complete without, you need a jacket on this too. So check this out. This is the full Larson scanner get up. I'm in leather. This is, of course, my favorite members-only brand stuff. So that is the Larson scanner project. So this is pretty straightforward. I wouldn't call it easy. It's if you're totally new to Arduino and soldering and stuff, do some beginner projects first because there are little things you need to solder to. Working with hot glue can be a pain in the butt. And I think it really is going to come down to the glasses that you can find. If you can find something cool like this, ideally something with enough space to fit this NeoPixel strip. And actually, I should also mention, so I'm looking through them now, I really can't see these pixels at all in my vision. This works really well with this pair of glasses. I can kind of see in the center some flashes from the reflection as the light goes across, but it's not too bad. I think this is, you could definitely wear these and be kind of cool and funky with it. So. But yeah, this is it, this Larson scanner project. It's a pretty cool kind of cyberpunk shades maybe for this. So I wanted to build them, and then maybe, I don't know if I'll be able to do it in a stream because I wanted to do these. Next week is Tour Camp, this really fun kind of part Burning Man, part hacker conference thing going on in Washington. So of course I need some good shades for Tour Camp, and I think these fit the bill for that. So I'll see if I have time to add in the switch and extend this thing further, but for now I think we'll cut it off. So let me go and let's just check if there are any comments in here, and let's see what we've got, or if there are any questions rather, and feel free to throw questions in the chat right now. And actually I have to take these glasses off because it's a little bit, it's hard to read. It does kill a little bit of the light for this. So let me pull these aside or here. Oh, actually, let me try if I just put them up against my head here. Let's try that. Put those down. All right, so can raise these up. There we go. Hey, that's kind of cool. So you've got the, it's like a pair of goggles. And then it's just like, all right, engage cyborg mode. Put those down. There we go. So, all right, that's cool. That works. All right, so let's see if there are any questions in the chat here. So let's see, are the LEDs individually addressed? Yeah, they're all individually addressed. There's only one input line, and that's check out NeoPixels. They're WS28, 11, 12 style pixels. I believe that's the right number. And it's a nice little set of pixels where one input line basically tells a pixel how to change its color, and then each pixel has an output line that it feeds into the next pixel. So it just goes down the whole chain of pixels. And there's you don't need a separate clock line. It works really well for that. So that's cool. Okay, let's see. Any other questions there? A question about could you use a feather Bluetooth LE, like a Bluetooth low energy to control this? Totally could. That would be really cool to have like your smartphone app controlling your Larson's shade glasses. So yeah, that would work. And do they make UV pixels? There are UV LEDs. I remember I asked Lady Ada about these too, and those do exist. I don't think there are UV NeoPixel style pixels, like the WS2811 kind of style for these. So yeah, look around and see. Larson scanner, Larson scanner, like I explained at the beginning of the video, Larson, if you check out Phil B's guide, he mentions it was Glenn Larson was the producer of Knight Rider and Battlestar Galactica. So that's kind of where these iconic little animations came from. So, okay, so that looks good. And could anyone help me with an issue I'm having with my mechanical keyboard backlight? If you have a question like that, save it for Ask an Engineer every Wednesday at, is it 8 p.m.? Yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern. Check out twitch.tv/Adafruit or youtube.com/Adafruit. We do a whole show, and at the end we can take questions. That's a better question, I think, for Lady Ada and Ask an Engineer. So that was one. And let's see, any other questions here? So I think that's it. So that's it. We'll wrap up the stream. So engage cyberpunk mode, the Larson scanner glasses like that. So these are pretty cool. These are fun glasses. They're definitely a good Maker Faire project. And I didn't do it in this stream, but you program these. Like I said, look at the guide that Phil B did. I just used his sketch exactly. The code for it is real simple. Maybe I will have time to do an extra screencast on this one, and we can work more with the code. But you could change the colors if you want. Like, you just have to change some of the constants in the code for that. So it's easy to update these and modify how they work. So all right, thanks a lot. This is Tony from Adafruit. Subscribe to twitch.tv/Adafruit. You can watch me stream this stuff live. youtube.com/Adafruit. You can watch all kinds of fun videos and projects that we have. All through the week we're doing lots of live and pre-recorded shows and things, so always good stuff happening. Like, comment, subscribe, let us know that this is cool stuff, and we'll keep doing it. If you get a lot of fun from it, then we'll keep going with it. So that's it, Tony from Adafruit. I'll see you guys later. Oh, and actually I should mention Monday I'm going to do another Pi quick look. So look at some kind of software. I haven't figured it out yet, so I should probably start looking at what I want to do tomorrow. And then Friday next week I won't have another Pi live stream because I'll be actually out at Tour Camp. And I just saw they do have a Wi-Fi network, so maybe there will be some periscoping. I don't know. We'll see what can happen out there. So yeah, no Raspberry Pi deep dive video this week. But we'll come back next week and get back into, I think I'm going to do a third and fourth part in the SQLite sensor storage stuff. So that's it, Tony from Adafruit. I'll see you guys later.